Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Welcome to the Myiasis lecture. This lecture is divided into two parts to ensure that the video recording would be in a smaller file, hence you can download the file. So, what is myiasis? Myiasis is the infestation of flies onto live human tissue or onto live animal tissue, and how this infestation can affect the human life and the animals too. This is the learning outcome I expect from all of you. You need to define what it means by myiasis and how it is being distributed in each part of the world depending on the types of flies available. You need to classify and type the different kinds of myiasis, which depends on which tissue is affected. You need to be able to tell me the names of the flies that are involved, but these are the three common names that I expect you to know. The basic life cycle of the fly. You need to understand the larva. The larva is the one that causes the signs and symptoms of the infestation. So my slides will show you what it is all about. The clinical presentation, again, it depends on which tissue or which part of the body is affected, how you treat this, and of course how you prevent it. Myiasis is the infestation of live human tissue or any vertebrate animal with the larva of a fly that feeds on living tissue or body fluid. Myiasis can be found throughout the world. However, it is more common in the tropical or subtropical region where the weather is warmer and more humid. This is a very conducive environment for the flies. Fly and myiasis is a major problem in animal husbandry, which means where animals are kept or reared for food purposes or for agricultural purposes. And this problem can cause devastating economic impact. However, myiasis can also cause a problem in humans with regards to infestation of our live human body. Myiasis can be divided into two classifications. The first being obligatory myiasis, which means that the maggot requires live human tissue in order for it to live. In the wound, all stages of the fly can be seen. A common presentation would be a furuncular, where the larvae of the fly burrows under the skin. One of the types of fly is the Charisomia bazinana, whereby the genus can be found here in Malaysia. The second type of myiasis is called the facultative myiasis. Facultative means that the maggot does not require live human tissue in order to complete its life cycle, but it can present itself in a necrotic or a dead tissue. One of the types of flies, or one of the genus of the flies, would be the Charisoma megacephala. Again, this genus can be found here in Malaysia too. For the purpose of this lecture, myiasis can be divided into 6 types, and all these depends on the site of where the infestation of the maggots are. The first type being the cutaneous myiasis, which is the most common type of myiasis, which can be found on the skin. Second, nasopharyngeal myiasis. This is of course found in the nasopharyngeal cavity. Third, ophthalmomyiasis, which is found at the eye. The fourth, intestinal myiasis, which is found in the stomach or in the gastrointestinal tract. However, this is also known as pseudomyiasis because the infestation is indirectly occurred through the ingestion of larvae or eggs when along with the food intake. The fifth type of myiasis is urogenital myiasis, and this occurs in the urogenital tract. And the sixth, is the auricular myiasis, which is found at the ear. Cutaneous myiasis is one of the commonest myiasis that takes place. It is found either on the skin or under the skin. Most commonly, cutaneous myiasis happens when there is poor wound care, but otherwise it can still happen in a healthy individual in the most unsuspecting situation, especially if the individual has traveled to an area where the vector or the fly can be found commonly. If you look at the figure C, what you can see is the scalp of a patient who was severely injured and has had a surgery. However, the wound has broken down, and what you can see are maggots at the site of the wound. Figures A and B show you a furuncular whereby the larvae has burrowed under the skin, and what you see in figure A is the breathing hole, which is the punctum, and figure B is when the larvae has been or is being extracted out of the out through the punctum. There is another type of cutaneous myiasis, which is the creeping myiasis, whereby it is a manifestation of a cutaneous larva migrans. However, this is not common. Here, what you can see in figure D is nasopharyngeal myiasis. If you look at the patient's right nostril, you can perhaps appreciate that there are presence of maggots in the right nostrils. The patient might present with intense itching of the nasal passage. Patient might sneeze a lot more than usual. There might be rhinorrhea. Patient might have a headache as well, and there might be blood oozing from the nasal passage. What you see in figure E is ophthalmomyiasis, which is the presence of maggots around the eye. In figure E, the maggots are found near the medial canter or posterior to the medial canter. If you look closely, there is periorbital swelling and of course redness of the eye. You would expect some form of discharge from the wound caused by the infestation. Lastly, it is the auricular myiasis, where it is the infestation of fly maggots in the ear. The fly can lay its egg at the ear canal, and the larvae may develop within the ear canal. Patients may present with pain within the ear, or they might hear things crawling in their head. Intestinal myiasis is pseudomyiasis, where the fly, egg or larvae indirectly enters the gastrointestinal tract via the ingestion of contaminated food. The fly larvae has two fates. It is either destroyed by the gastric juice, or the larvae may survive and develop in the gastrointestinal tract. Some patients may be asymptomatic, while others may present with vague abdominal symptoms. The next type of myiasis is urogenital myiasis, where the fly lays their egg near the exit of the urethra. When hatched, the larvae may proceed upwards into the urogenital tract. Here, the patients may present with any form of urinary symptoms like increase in frequency, pain on urination, a sensation of something crawling within the urethra, or any discharge within the urethra. There are two types of flies involved in myiasis. The first requires a vector in the life cycle, and the second does not require a vector in its life cycle. One of the commonest vector is a mosquito, simply because the mosquito is much smaller than a fly, and a mosquito's bite is more discreet than a fly is to its host. This is the life cycle of the bot fly, known as the Myiasis hominis. The bot fly requires the mosquito as a vector. The adult fly will capture the mosquito and lay its egg on the body of the mosquito, and using a glue-like substance in order to stick the egg onto the body of the mosquito. When the mosquito takes a blood meal from the human host, the heat from the human host body will dislodge the glue-like substance that was holding the egg onto the mosquito's body. The egg will develop into a larvae and wait to enter the skin wound that has been induced when the mosquito bites the human host. When the glue-like substance melts, the larvae can then fall onto the human host skin and penetrate the skin. There, the larvae will live under the skin and feed on the subdermal cavity. The action of feeding on the subdermal tissue will cause pain on the human host. When the larva is matured, after going through the third instar, the larvae will then leave the human host and drop onto the soil to become pupa and later on develop to become an adult. This is the life cycle of the blowfly. It has a direct life cycle whereby the adult fly lays its eggs at the live human tissue, and the eggs will hatch to develop into a larvae, and the larvae has 3 stages, and this larvae lives by eating live tissue. In figure B, you can see the developmental stages of the botfly larva. The leftmost is the first stage of the larva, and the rightmost is the late stage of the third instar of the larva. In all of these stages, the larva will feed on the human host tissue, and it can cause damage to the surrounding structure and elicit pain to the patient. What you see in figure A is the lateral view of the adult human botfly, the Myiasis hominis. Figures A and B are from the same larva. A is the lateral view of the larva and B is the anterior view of the larva. The mouthpiece of the larva is situated at the anterior of the larva, and the posterior end of the larva is the breathing apparatus for the larva. The breathing apparatus, or the posterior end of the larva, is situated towards the surface of the skin in order to facilitate the larva to breathe. And the mouthpiece, anteriorly of course, is closer to the inner part of the tissue in order to facilitate for the larva to feed on their host tissue. In this slide, what you see are diagrams of the larva comparatively between a blowfly and a botfly. The morphology of a blowfly is different compared to that of a botfly. Regardless of the difference in morphology between a blowfly and a botfly, the posterior end of both types of larvae are located at the surface of the human skin. This is where the breathing apparatus can be found. The breathing apparatus is called the spiracles. Whether it is a blowfly or a botfly, along the body of the larva you can find spines which looks like fish hooks. These spines point towards posteriorly, and this is to prevent the larva from slipping out of the human tissue. Because of the direction or the backward direction of these spines, pulling out or manual removal of the larva can be difficult and can lead to rupturing of the larva within the human tissue whilst trying to remove the larva from the wound. In this slide, I want you to focus on the spiracles. The spiracles are shown in the red arrow. As I mentioned earlier, spiracles are the breathing apparatus for the larva. The spiracles are situated posteriorly towards the skin surface. The significance of the spiracles is such that each fly species has different spiracle patterns or design which could be used as one of the ways to identify the fly species. Here you can see 4 different types of spiracles from 4 different types of fly species. I hope you can appreciate that the spiracles can be used to identify the fly species. In this slide, I want you to compare and contrast the morphology of the botfly and the blowfly. I also want you to orientate the anterior and the posterior end of the larvae. This is the end of part 1 Myiasis lecture. You may then proceed to part 2 of the Myiasis lecture.